Hey, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock, time for Sci-Fi Distilled. Welcome back, Mary Beth, as always.
Hello.
And hey, Bill's here already. How are you, Bill?
Hi, Bill.
So, this week, of course, we're doing, last week we did Star Trek's worst episodes. This week we are
Hi,
doing
Martin. Hi,
Star
Chris.
Trek's, what we think is Star Trek's best episodes. You guys
Yes.
can put, of course, in the chat what you think. But before we get to that, we have news and some sad news. So I'll let Mary Beth
We
take it
do
from
have
there.
news. We do have sad news. So most of you watching know, and if any of you other somehow don't know, Rizzo and I are volunteers at the Star Trek set tour. And the Star Trek set tour has had some very tragic news this weekend. One of our tour guides, a lovely young man named TJ, went missing over the weekend and was unfortunately found dead. Our hearts go out to his wife and family. This kind of situation has never, I don't think, touched any of us before, and it's just shocking and devastating. And we are, I do have a GoFundMe link if you guys are interested in it. And yeah, Rizzo, I don't know. What do you think? This is
It's tragic. It's very tragic. The circumstances are bizarre. I'm sure more will come out as the investigation goes on. This was not natural causes or an accident.
No, it was not.
So yeah, like you said, our hearts and thoughts go out to the family, his wife. I don't know if he had any children.
I
don't think they did. But if you knew TJ, I only got to know him briefly because he had just started there, I think, last fall.
Yeah, he'd only been there since like October.
Yeah, he seemed like just a really nice guy.
Clearly loved it.
Loved what he was doing. Always had a smile on his face. So, yeah, it was very sad news. And I think it's going to rebound with us for quite a while before we can kind of move on.
I think so too. So, well, all right, let's move on. Other news.
Yeah, Mary Beth will put the in the chat if you have the GoFundMe, and then of course we'll put it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I will put it on the. Okay, in other news tonight, after a bit of radio silence, we've got confirmation that the planned Game of Thrones sequel has been canceled, or at least shelved for now. It was Kit Harington's idea. He's the one who pitched it. They did have script writers, but they just couldn't settle on a really good plot line, which frankly, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I'd rather see them shelve mediocrity and not go until they have something really
If you don't have Martin writing it,
they don't have.
I don't think it's going to be. And I wonder if some of this also, I don't think the House of Dragons was as great a success as they were hoping.
I agree.
And I think that probably, I didn't really care for it very much either compared to Game of Thrones. So I wonder if that had, and I don't think they did really well with the prequel to, was it Amazon that had the prequel to Lord of the Rings?
It was Amazon.
And I don't know how
well it was Amazon.
Either. So I wonder if people are a little burned out on
the fantasy
type stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Game of Thrones was its own thing. You know what I'm saying? It was just, I think it was Martin's writing. And I think it was, of course, not only that, but good screenwriting and acting, and it was a lot of things that came together.
Yeah,
you got to make sure you had the Starbucks cup on the set and the Toyota pickup truck. Little screw ups like that. It always amazed me how they got all the way to airing it and nobody caught it.
And nobody noticed.
Hey, there's a pickup truck on the hill over there.
I think for these shows, people are like burning the midnight oil and pushing themselves and working and trying to get scenes, especially when you give a lot of CGI or whatever to do. They're trying to process them and do it. And I think all right, moving on with the news. Alien, the original Alien, guys, is coming back to theaters ahead of that Alien Romulus release. This Alien re-release, I guess it's just a re-release, I don't know, is scheduled for April 26th, and Romulus will be out on August 16th. There are rumors of a fifth Matrix movie without the Wachowskis. Little is known about the proposed project, but can it be done, and can it be done well, and can it be done without the Wachowskis?
Money grab.
I think money grab, because I feel like the last one had a nice little end cap, and there's nothing much more to say in that universe.
Yeah, it's just money grab. They're just going off the name.
Yeah, I think you're right. The first ever flying taxi in real life news, which Rizzo hates when I do real life news. The first ever flying taxi
It's sort of sci-fi, I guess.
kind of sci-fi, yeah, could take to the United Kingdom, to the British skies, as early as 2026, as a government plan has suggested. There are proposals from the department, their version of the DOT. It's part of their future of flight action plan, and under the proposals, driverless flying taxis could become a reality within the next couple of years. I don't know how they're going to do that, and
Driverless. Interesting.
I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know, man. You try it first, London, and then if it works, we'll. And then finally tonight, Rizzo, and I want to see this.
Yeah.
Fallout.
So yeah. Amazon Prime TV moved up the premiere of Fallout, the television show, to tonight from supposed to be tomorrow.
Because I was
9
kind
p.m. Eastern. You will be
So
able
I
to
can
watch.
watch it
I
when you're
believe.
done.
I don't know if it was the first 2 episodes, but at least the first episode of
Alright.
Fallout, the TV show.
It
This has
looks
been
good. The
very
teasers look
anticipated.
good.
In the fandom, as usual, a lot of fans are already upset about it, for various reasons. From what I've seen from the trailer, and as someone who's been a fan of the video games for years, still play it like literally every day, practically. I think it looks good from what I've seen in the trailers. I mean, I think they got the visuals down, I think, right. Whether the story, the cast looks good, so we'll see. I'm very excited. Very optimistically
Yeah.
hopeful, so to speak, on the show. So if you're interested, if you don't know the Fallout franchise, it's a post-apocalyptic video game, has a bit of a sense of humor to it. It's kind of, I always describe Fallout as if it's what the 50s. It looks like after like right before the bombs dropped, it would be like what the 50s thought the future would be. So you still see cars with fins, that are left of
Cool.
cars, that kind of thing, but they're fusion powered, and robots that are very kind of, that sort of thing. So it has a very Art Deco-y kind of a feel to the whole universe. So anyway, if you're interested, give it a shot and let me know what you think.
I am interested. I will give it a shot. I was kind of quasi watching Halo, so
Yeah, I haven't watched the second season of Halo because I haven't coughed up another season because there hasn't been any Star Trek worth
Yeah, it
watching.
hasn't been any. Just super quick, Martin is saying that Coventry City in the UK has already set up a landing zone for those possible flying taxis. So I guess this is the real deal. I think this is happening. I will be so curious to see how that works.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know if I want to be the first one. I'm a little concerned about the driverless part. I don't even get in the driverless land car.
I know, right? I'm not sure that I would trust it.
Because, already the science fiction have already used on multiple shows, the hacking the driverless car into crashing and purposely killing somebody, as a way of murdering somebody. They hack the AI in the car, and they cause the car to crash and make it look like an accident. So
future is here, kids.
Next thing you know, it'll be driverless taxis with bombs on them or something.
Do we have a beverage for our?
We do have a beverage. It's called the Borg Queen. Why not? This was actually a drink that was from the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas at Quark's Bar. I don't know how many of you actually got to go and witness. I'm just turning off the sound on my phone. Go and see that. I was lucky enough. I did go to Vegas when it was still there. Quark's Bar was the coolest place to hang out. They had all sort of Star Trek themed cocktails from Warp Core Breaches. This was one of them, the Borg Queen, and looks like it might be pretty good. Smirnoff Green. That's a very apple-y thing.
Very apple.
Pucker apple, a lot of apple, 99 apple schnapps, and sweet and sour mix. So Ken, you listen? Definitely something Ken would like.
Martin says, are they going to be called Johnny Caps? Maybe. I don't know.
There you go. That was Robert Picardo.
Yes, that was Robert Picardo. That's right.
Johnny Cab.
That's right.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. All right. Let's start at the very beginning.
Okay. So we're going to go through them as best we can. So of course we'll obviously start with TOS. I didn't actually, the more I thought about it, I didn't do any for animated series. I should have.
You know what? Neither did I. But I think we would all agree that it would be the one with the Salat there.
The one with the star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So anyway, for TOS, I would say best episodes for me. God, there's so many good ones. I would say either. Well, we'll do more than one, but I'm going to say right off the bat, Balance of Terror was always
That's a
one of my
great choice.
favorites growing up. It's still, I think, one of the better ones, even though the science of it doesn't really play out with the whole sound thing, because sound doesn't travel through space, so there's really no reason to go silent. But it was, again, based on the submarine hunting kind of a thing. But I think the tension in it, the ultimate connection with Kirk and the Romulan commander, aka Spock's father, it's just a great episode, and I think it's one of the most entertaining episodes of the series. So
it is a very good episode. Yeah, good choice.
So
yeah.
What
All
would what?
I have a list. I have a list. How many do I have? I have one.
We'll just go back and forth. So just give us a TOS one.
A TOS one. Can I preface this by saying this was so much harder? This was so much harder than last week. Last week,
because there's more good episodes than there are bad episodes in most of the series.
Yeah,
with the exception of like Discovery.
I am going to start with one of my all-time favorites, Amok Time. Probably because I just like seeing Vulcan. I like seeing T'Pring. I liked seeing T'Pau. I liked her saying, "The air is the air. What do you want me to do?" I loved all of it. I loved seeing like this culture, and it made you like it was finally a window into Spock's life, because we knew nothing about him before that, or as a window into Vulcan life, I guess.
Right. We didn't know very little about Vulcans,
and I loved him at the end. You know, him saying, "You may find that having isn't nearly so good as wanting." Whatever the quote is, it's
a great line, and it actually is true. I used to actually, that I remember as a kid, you'd think that wonderful thing that you had saw on TV and you had to have it.
I mean, it's classic. The grass is
or whatever. And then when you got the thing, it was never as good as you imagined it would be.
Yeah.
So I always equated that to that quote. That wanting is not always, having isn't always as pleasurable thing as wanting. Or wanting.
Martin wants to know: are we talking TOS with original effects or updated effects? It depends on the episode.
Doesn't matter.
Because one of mine on my episode,
I don't think the effects do not, to me, change.
No,
the writing or the feel of the show. So
yeah, you're right.
And just a note on that. I know there's so much controversy and hate for the redone effects, and I take a little umbrage to it because it was done many years ago when special effects were, the CGI stuff. Second of all, the Okudas were heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
So when you're crapping on it, you're crapping on them, and not
on them, which I would appreciate you not doing that.
But my biggest point is, if you don't like them, that's fair. But if you have the Blu-rays, you can at least watch it. At least we can see the original version. Unlike Star Wars, where George Lucas pulled them all away.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that.
A pirate copy of the original, you can't watch the original Star Wars as it was aired in 1977. You can't.
I was just about to say that. Like, we get so upset with the Star Wars special effects, but the Star Trek ones, like, watch them, don't watch them. Because they left us the choice.
Yeah, and the cool thing is on the Blu-rays, if you have the I think it's the angle button on your remote. Remember, some of the DVDs had different angles or something. You could switch between the effects, so you can flip live as it's happening. You flip back and forth between.
I like some of the planets better, but I mean,
the planets definitely look better. I know some of the ship stuff people are unhappy with, but it was CGI as opposed to an actual model. Maybe what they should have done for the ship stuff is done model work instead of CGI.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, I have so many. I feel like we need to go faster. What else do you have for TOS?
For TOS, my other one, of course, and I've said this before, is again in season 1 would be the Corbomite maneuver. I like this one. I think this is another good. It shows how humans can, the fear. We have Bailey, who's kind of young, and he's always, he's kind of freaking out, and everybody's like, "Dude, chill," But the other thing I really love about this is one of the first times we see Kirk being clever, Kirk being Kirk kind of pulling that fast maneuver, and I love the line when he goes, "Not chess, Mr. Spock, poker." And then he does the whole bluff thing, which you'd think is ridiculous, but if you're an alien, you don't know. And of course, it ends up being just a big test. But up to that point. I just liked the episode, and I again was a kid. I found that was one of my more entertaining ones.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, absolutely. I went on to choose, and I'm going to pair these together. I'm going to go ahead and say Space Seed, and let's go ahead and throw Wrath of Khan in there too. But I'm going to say Space Seed. Ricardo Montalban at his finest, and the whole like idea we found this Superman, this a genetically enhanced Superman from the future, and oh my God, he's evil.
From the past.
From the past, yeah, from the past.
Except so the interesting thing about Space Seed, and I think what makes it so great, or makes it greater as time went on, aside from Ricardo's awesome portrayal of Khan, is the fact that it really became just the first part in a multi-part story, because we had Space Seed, but then we get to Wrath of Khan, which is the second part. Then we actually go to The Search for Spock, which is the third part in that story, and then we finally round up with A Voyage Home when they're finally Spock's back, they're back, and they kind of go back to square one where they're back to group
trilogy.
It's a 4-part show story, and it really is great. And of course, having Ricardo come back and reprise the role in Wrath of Khan, I don't think it would have worked. If they didn't have him, if he wasn't around or couldn't do
it. And his performance in Wrath of Khan was just absolutely, he tests me.
Yeah, I really think that
Predictions Moon. Like his performance was
he's phenomenal. He is amazing.
All right. What else we got? What else we got here?
Other ones from, of course, TOS that I think are really good. Excuse me. I've had them listed. Hang on. Go ahead. You got another one? Give me another one.
I have a list. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna rattle these off, and maybe you can appreciate them with me. Doomsday Machine, William,
Absolutely.
What's his name, being this mad, crazed captain. Don't you think I tried? Like, oh my God, he's so good. Like, it's so brilliant. And this thing, you can't stop it. Like, nothing stops it. Devil in the Dark. That was an episode that kind of threw me for a loop as a little kid, because I was a dumb little kid. But if I was like, oh my God, it's not trying to kill them. Oh, wait.
No kill eye.
No kill eye, right? The Enterprise is
the point. Yeah, just looping back to Devil in the Dark.
Yeah.
The other point is that it really was, again, another story of don't judge a book by its cover. The humans saw a hideous or horrible thing that was just wanted to murder, because we didn't understand it, didn't look like us. I'm saying it wasn't one of the few times in Star Trek where we didn't have a biped alien.
Yes.
It was just a kind of a thing. So, excuse me. I think the other important message in that was, don't assume things just based on what they look like. Don't make judgments. So, anyway.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
The other one,
it is William Wyndham.
One of the ones I wanted to throw in there was Arena, which
Arena is a great one.
Another good episode. I mean, it has some plot holes in it for sure. The fourth and only time we see a Gorn in TOS. Of course, then they just ruin it in we'll get there.
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another good story again, where is good going to triumph over evil? Is really good always going to triumph? And it's really not. It really kind of almost proves that. I want to say might makes right, but again, Kirk being clever. If you could just make a rudimentary lathe.
A rudimentary lathe. But see, they remember that in Galaxy Quest, they went for that moment.
That's from. You could make a rudimentary lathe.
Can you make a rudimentary lathe? My last three. Let me just rattle these off. The Galileo 7, because I loved seeing Spock go, oh my, I did everything right. I did everything right. And I'm still. And then you could just hear Picard going, it is possible to do everything right and still
fail. Right. Again, that was kind of the message there.
Exactly. The Enterprise
incident. Desperation.
Yeah, exactly. The Enterprise incident, because that Romulan commander, fire with Spock. I loved her. Yeah. I loved her. And then I'm just going to throw these as a match set, and we can talk about it more when we get to Deep Space Nine. I'm going to throw in Trouble at Tribbles, and then, of course, Trials and Tribulations as a match set of editing genius there.
Yes, absolutely. I think we can say that now that, and I'm going to say that going through these, I was coming up with more DS9 episodes than any other series.
Me too.
And I keep going back to this, and I don't think it gets enough credit because I think, especially in the later seasons,
Yeah,
some of the writing on DS9 was just unbelievably brilliant.
it was
just unbelievably brilliant.
It was. I'm in the middle of a rewatch. I have so much greater appreciation for it rewatching it. I really do.
I have a lot more. Yeah, I agree with Tribbles. I agree with pretty much. We're on the same page. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
But we're gonna move on to.
Let's get through next gen because then we're gonna eat up Deep Space Nine. We're gonna eat it up.
Yeah. So, as far as next gen, one of my favorites is always going to be Measure of a Man.
I have that too.
I do love that episode. I don't really know why I like that episode. Maybe I just think there's no action in this episode whatsoever. It's so pure Star Trek. You know what I'm saying? It is like this whole, and honestly, for TOS, one of my other favorites was Court Martial. I don't know why the whole legal thing. I guess I find that.
Oh yeah, that's a great choice.
Court Martial was a really good episode, but yet really nothing happened. I mean, except for the little fight at the end with Finney. But
yeah,
other than that, so I love Measure of Man. Of course, they took that and sort of ran with it with Picard and beat it and dragged it through the mud and ignored it. And but anyway, what would be your next gen?
For next gen, I also had Measure of Man. I'm going to go with Best of Both. I'll do Best of Both Worlds, both of them, which the season 3 finale and the season 4 opener, where we see and that finale is just like it's Riker, Mr. Worf, fire, and they're firing on Picard, and you're just like,
yeah,
that was like. That's a whole Locutus. That's the whole Locutus, which has now lived on. Like that whole.
I would
thing
say TNG peaked at that.
Yeah, it might have. It might. Well, I don't know.
I mean, there were some good episodes. I don't want to say that there weren't any good episodes after that, but I think it was really at its top of game, and it was a good cliffhanger. That of course there were other great episodes. There's not saying that there wasn't. One of the ones that I really liked was, first of all the Q ones. I love them. Anyone that have
any of
the Q ones are great
because John Delancey makes it.
Yeah, because you got So Unification's also another good one. That's the one where we get to see Spock still alive and doing the Spock thing, trying to get the Romulans back together with the Vulcans at some point. I thought that was a pretty good episode, or it was actually a two-parter. Again, I think it was that a season splitter? No, it wasn't. It was the middle. It was early on in the fifth season. So anyway, I think that was another good one. Although again, kind of, again, I was watching it again. I'm like, okay, so the Romulans, so they can make their face look Romulan, but you can't change their body chemistry or their Romulan,
blood type and stuff
Vulcans
like that.
And Romulans, you could say, okay, they're close enough. You could say, but a human being in there, you think would kind of throw off red flags in the.
You would think when they changed when they changed Deanna to be Romulan, then they pulled that same stunt on Kira. They said, "Oh, surprise, Kira, you're actually Cardassian," and she was like, and they had
yes. That's kind of an old trope, I guess.
Martin says family. Yeah, family was a good one. We get to meet Picard's brother and the brother's wife. Bill says Data's Day. Yes, well, that's often often quoted one.
Family's one of those ones that a lot of people. I don't
Relics.
Yeah, Relics is a good one because we have that. Well, that one and is that. That's not the one with Scotty. What's the one I'm thinking of with the good old
Relics
No Bloody
is
A?
Is
that Relics?
Yep. No Bloody A,
B,
Bloody C.
Which was the first time they rebuilt the original TOS part of the TOS bridge ever.
Yeah, they only had like a wedge of it.
They only had like a wedge of it. The rest was all filled in with So, but yeah.
The next one I'm gonna say for next gen, I'm gonna say Chain of Command because there are 4 lights. That was brilliant. Watching Patrick Stewart and David Warner, who played Gul Madred, his captor. That was brilliant. I mean, that
was a very good episode. Brilliant. And of course, it's probably one of the most.
And I don't even,
quoted episodes. I don't even
remember the subplot.
Everybody with they are off 4 lights.
I don't remember the subplot. I don't remember what else was going on in the episode. I just remember Picard and David Warner and Patrick Stewart just just
Yeah.
being geniuses, being freaking geniuses. And
Yeah, another TNG one that I think is very good. Again, was in season 3, which was Yesterday's Enterprise.
I knew you were gonna say Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of universal. I know everybody says that, but it is a very good episode. We get to see Tasha kind of come back, kind of have a better death, which was kind of the point, I guess, than the lame one they gave her in season 1.
Agree.
I never cared for her character, and I think I took that out on Denise Cosby, and I don't think I should have, because I think it was the way she was, again, directed. I mean, kind of as I grow older, I become wiser and realize that it's not necessarily the actor's fault that the character sucked. And Tasha was never my favorite character ever. I thought she was always over the top for no reason. I know her background, but I just felt the character was too
I didn't love that
excitable all the time. She was very excitable. So, interestingly enough, Marina Sirtis actually was originally, they actually flipped. They originally auditioned for each other's part originally. So Marina was going for Tasha's part, and Denise was going for Deanna Troi.
Which I think switching them was right. That's
I agree.
Right.
I don't.
You're right. The Tasha Yar character
just the other way. But
like, how many times in the series did she say rape gangs? Like, it just got to be not. It didn't have the emotional
season, so not too many times rape gangs, but
a couple times she said. All right, let me see. What else do I have for next gen? I'm going to throw Darmok in there just because, his eyes.
Yeah, that's always a good one. That's
always a good one. And the Drumhead's a good one. There's so many, guys. There's so many. The Offspring just meeting Lol was kind of a hoot. I don't know. And when the episode, what was the episode where Worf is like with mint frosting? Just all these little moments. Like, I have so many little moments that just live.
Well, I mean, Deja, the one where not Deja, is it Deja?
Someone's having a dream or something.
The Cupid one where they do the whole Robin Hood thing, and Worf has the best line. I am not a merry man.
Captain, I must protest.
I am not a merry man.
Worf got, we're going to talk about Worf one of these nights, because I'm rewatching Deep Space Nine. He gets the shaft like a lot. He just, I don't know, man.
He ends up being the butt of a lot of jokes.
He's the butt of jokes, and they've deliberately made him screw up twice now in Deep Space Nine. Well, I'm up to season 5, so he screwed up twice up to season 5, and I'm like, damn, like if I were Michael Dorn, I might be protesting a little bit. Come on, man, I'm a competent officer.
He's still collecting a check while the other ones are now looking for jobs.
He's still collecting a check. All right. Anything else? Do we have anything else?
I don't know. Their TNG has a lot of good episodes, and certainly we could go through them, but it's hard to say what. I think we've covered the bulk of them.
All right, let's dive into Deep Space Nine. Oh, do you want to do Voyager first? Let's do Voyager first.
No, Deep Space Nine actually comes in order of shows.
Then let's dive in. I have like 10 episodes listed here.
Go ahead.
You guys listening, just so you know, I have 10 episodes listed, and at the top I have all of season 6.
All of season 6, which was the height of the Dominion War.
My first one, and I'm going to go right for the throat. Like, this is it. This is the episode that I think is quintessential Deep Space Nine, In the Pale Moonlight. This is the episode where he goes to Garak asking for information because he's trying to get is trying to get the Romulans to come help the Federation in this war. Garak's contacts are dying or something. So Garak's like, go ahead and forge it. Let's forge it. And Sisko convinces Starfleet to let him forge whatever they need to get the Romulans. And it's this whole ethics question.
Fake.
Yeah. And it's just, the writing is on point. The way they, it's just, brilliant. And I love Avery Brooks.
Yeah, you're right. And I would, I've always said Avery's like my favorite captain. I think because I've always felt Avery portrayed, or Sisko, I should say, really, to me, was the most human and most realistic person because of, I think, that season 6, mostly because I think you saw these struggles that he had to go through with making these decisions, that there was no good one. And there's no right answer. There
was no right one. It was a war. They
it was horrible.
They had to do.
it was always like in TNG, it's like always like, oh well, here's here we always had a positive ending for the most part. We always end up making the right decision that for the
TNG
most part.
and original series always had that little laugh.
Original series
Original
would
series
have
always
like,
had a little laugh on the bridge. At the end.
20 million people just died on this planet, but we're joking about it as we leave.
We're joking about it on the bridge. Next Gen at least had the decency to not do that, but they always try to make it an up note.
Yeah.
Deep Space Nine said, "War is hell, people.
It sucks.
It sucks. Bad things happen. Let's take a look at it, shall we?"
To me, the best Deep Space Nine episode, and I would argue that it is the best episode of any Star Trek ever made, is Far Beyond the Stars.
Excellent episode.
It is so well written. To me, it is so Star Trek. I mean, you guys, I know a lot of people are big fans of City on the Edge of Forever. This is the DS9 version of City on the Edge of Forever for me.
Just a reminder for everyone, this is the one where it's a great writer.
Right, where it's like it's he's a writer in the 50s and he's dealing with the whole racism and he's imagining the space station is all basically as if DS9 came out of his imagination. So if you've never seen it, you should watch it. I think it's probably, I wouldn't watch it as like, oh, I've never seen DS9 before, I'm gonna watch Far Beyond the Stars. I would say you need to get to know these characters because all the main characters are there, of course, not as themselves. Because they're playing people, but I think it's important to know who they are in the regular show.
Yeah, Chris LaRoche is saying Q just decked him. Yeah, and you know what? Q shows up. Cisco just decks him and then says, "I'm not Picard." That is an awesome episode. The next one I had it on my list. The next one I had on my list was Only a Paper Moon. This is the one, guys, after Nog has lost his leg. And he's hanging out in the hall suite with James Darren, it's Vic.
Yeah, I know you're talking about the singer.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the character's last name. It's James Darren as Vic, the singer, and he has to grapple and cope with this permanent loss, and because this is what happens in war. Well written, very sweet, very touching. Nog started out in season 1 and season 2. You meet Nog, and he's kind of annoying. And when he decides to go to Starfleet, you're like, "Oh, this kid is not gonna." No,
he loses his leg, and it was in the Siege of AR-558.
Yes, the Siege of AR-558.
And then the subsequent episode, and I don't remember the subsequent episode where he's just hiding in the holodeck because he doesn't think he can, be a part of whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Thank you, Sarge and Chris. Vic
Fontaine, who kind of plays like a sort of I guess a
cabaret.
Cabaret. Yeah, he's like supposed to be like a
Sammy Davis, a Brat Pack
kind of. Yeah,
Frank Sinatra type.
So,
all right, what else do you have on your?
What do I have for DS9? Of course, I love Take Me Out to the Holodeck.
Take Me Out to the Hall Suite.
Again, it's a very, very fun. It's a very fun episode. I think it's very light. Again, I think it shows a good kind of a camaraderie with the crew of how they all get along. And basically, the Vulcans are the bad guy. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of it's because they're playing this Vulcan baseball team. Which it's interesting that Vulcans are even interested in baseball. But.
And Worf's up in the stands going, "Death to the enemy."
So that was, what else do you have for DS?
I have kind of along those same lines. I have Little Green Men. That was the episode where they're bringing Nog to go to Starfleet Academy. So they're bringing him to Earth, and somehow, Technobabble. Oops, they're in the past. They're in the 40s, and they become basically the Roswell.
They become Roswell, the Roswell UFO.
And they're held captive, but it's just fun. And you know what? It's that one and the Take Me to the Hall Suite baseball one. Both the same thing you said earlier apply. You got to know these characters before you can appreciate these episodes. It's a little fun, a little lighthearted, but
yeah. And another one I really liked, again, and kind of the long story, is Blood Oath, which brings back our favorite 3 original Klingons from TOS.
Yes.
Of
and the original actors.
Captain, not Garth.
Kor,
Kang,
and
I'm forgetting the other one with a K.
So am I.
Koloth.
Koloth, yes.
So yeah, the guy from Trouble with Tribbles, the guy from Enemy Day of the Dove, and then the other one, what the heck's the one with Core? Come on, help me out, folks. The one with the they're the energy people. They turned out.
Yeah, and
Why can't I think of it?
It's
Anyway,
all
you know what I'm talking about. So we get to see them, of course. Now they're in full Klingon regalia because Errand of Mercy. Thank you, Jeff. So we get to see them in Klingon, and of course they have a whole thing with Dax, of course, being Curzon Dax, not Jadzia Dax.
my old friend. I'm Jadzia now. Jadzia,
So,
my old friend.
And speaking of Curzon, I love the fact that the novels, the authors of the novels that are like in Enterprise and in some of the earlier stuff, they bring in Curzon, the Trill, or I should say Dax, not Curzon, but Dax.
Yeah, Dax is
the different forms of Dax. So, it's so-and-so Dax. This one Dax, of course, it's going to obviously lead to Jadzia eventually. But I think it's interesting how they would pull those. So, like way back 100 years ago, he was still around in a different body, of course, or the different host, I should say. So anyway, that was one of my favorite episodes just because we got to see those old Klingons, and those guys played that role so well.
And they played it brilliantly. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go with Duet. Duet is another little psychological look at it's the one where this guy shows up and they think he's the butcher of Galatep. It's a Cardassian, and they think he's the butcher of Galatep, and they realize no, he's just surgically altered to look like the butcher of Galatep. And Kira, as a Bajoran, is just struggling with this guy, but he was the butcher's clerk, and he felt so much guilt for this guy's massacres that he was willing to like try to take. I don't know. It's like a psychological study. And this is kind of an example of some of Deep Space Nine's best writing, because it just takes you to these twists and turns, and you're like, wait, why did this guy do this? What is happening?
Yeah.
And then you have to try to like see it through Kira's eyes, because she just at that point in time still kind of just hates all Cardassians on principle.
Right. And there's there's an arc with her too.
Huge arc with her.
She has massive arcs with over the course of the 7 seasons. So
that's
a good one. That is a good episode. Yeah, there's some good ones. So I'm saying Deep Space Nine has the ones that to me it's like they pull you in. They do make you think a lot, especially in the later ones. I know, like all the series, the first couple seasons were a little weak and shaky legs, but I think DS9 really got their feet run when they got their feet under them, especially when the war hit.
Somewhere around season 4, they
really got some good writing. And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of Star Trek fans that hate that there was a war to begin with. They think that shouldn't have been Star Trek. Star Trek doesn't, it's all. But really, when you go back to TOS, they were always on the verge of war with the Klingons constantly and the Romulans. So, the fact that
that's true, but it was set up so well, like with the Dominion and.
No, I think it was. They really did set it up from the beginning, because the whole first episode, was them moving the station next to the wormhole, the stable wormhole.
Yeah.
So they were kind of lining it up right from the get-go. And with Odo being a shapeshifter, which obviously connects to the story down the road, because originally, remember, we didn't know where, nobody knew what he was. He was just a one-off. So anyway.
Yeah. Bill is doing Warwick's great morality plays, and boy, did Deep Space Nine mine that. They mined it for all it was worth. They're brilliant at it. Let's wrap up our Deep Space Nine section with the 2 tearjerker episodes. One is The Visitor, and the other is the series finale, What You Leave Behind.
The Visitor certainly is excellent. Tony Todd is brilliant as an older Jake Sisko. The basic plot is, if you don't remember, Sisko is kind of they think he's dead. Jake keeps seeing him through his life. As his life progresses, he keeps seeing his father as a ghost, kind of, and of course it gets to all the way to the end where Jake is an old man, and of course Sisko's not aging as he keeps seeing him, and of course they find out that it was some kind of temporal thing he was caught in, and they get him back to the current time or which of the episode, and of course so all that doesn't happen. But it's a really touching, as you say, it's a tearjerker episode. Some brilliant acting from both Avery and Tony Todd.
Little trivia tidbit. The episode kicks off with a young lady arriving at Jake Sisko's house, and Tony Todd, as Jake Sisko, opens the door and starts talking to her. That young lady is played by Garrick is played by Andrew Robinson, that's his daughter Rachel Robinson playing the girl, the young lady.
Factoid.
Little factoid.
Little factoid.
Yeah, and then What You Leave Behind. I mean,
the
all
finale.
Star Trek, maybe one of the best series finale.
It's probably one of Star Trek. It's probably one because of course TOS didn't have a season finale.
Yeah, TOS didn't have one. Yeah.
TNG of course had one. It was pretty good. DS9 I think had a good one. Of course, Enterprise got screwed out of a good one.
Enterprise got screwed.
Voyagers was okay, but I think out of all of them up to this point, DS9 has
Star Trek nepotism. Doc, there's a lot of Star Trek nepotism. All right, shall we move on to Voyager? My Voyager list's a little bit shorter, so
yeah, Voyager's going to be a shorty.
All right, let's just start.
I think we're going to agree on most of these, so we're going to go pretty fast.
I wrote Year of Hell ? And then I wrote Kurtwood Smith. I really just enjoy Kurtwood Smith.
No, I agree. Just from a sheer entertainment episode, I think it was a two-parter. Year in Hell was probably one of their.
It was okay, but even it slogs.
It was the most interesting.
A few moments in that episode where you're like,
yeah. I just like by this time the characters are more well-rounded. I don't dislike Janeway as much as I used to in this episode. I know it's sacrilege, but she's not my favorite person. But yeah, I think I agree. I think it's one of the stronger episodes for Voyager. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's just entertaining. I think there's not a lot. I don't think there's a huge message in there.
No, there's no huge. They did send messages sometimes. So two of them, I'll put these two together because they're both Robert Picardo episodes. I will put Tinker Tenor, Dr. Spy, and I will put Critical Care. Critical Care is an episode where the doctor had to go. It was a plague or something, and he immediately sees the haves and the have-nots, and the haves have the cure. They're getting help, and the have-nots are suffering. And that was a commentary on our healthcare. And that was back in the 90s. And now we're in 2024. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
So, but those were.
No, that is a good one. That is a good episode. Like I said,
those were both great good ones. But, Robert Picardo was so good. He could carry, he did really well carrying even kind of mediocre episodes. He could do it.
Yeah, I think he was always the shining star of that show overall. I think that character and his acting portrayal on it. I think he really was one of the key members of that show to really make it palatable.
Chris LaRoche,
another good one I always thought was called Equinox. That's where they run into the other starship out there, the Equinox, and of course they're doing bad things. The reason I kind of like this because I'm like, this is what I always said. I'm like, you guys are so far from home. You really had no hope of. Generally had really no hope of getting back to the Federation in your lifetime, or at least you would be so old by the time you got back. So these guys were doing what they had to do to survive. So, do you throw the Prime Directive out?
Yeah, exactly.
And do what you have to do to provide. There's no Federation, there's no oversight.
It wasn't
or do you stick to your Federation ideals and go down with your ship?
And go down with the ship. Yeah, that was the moral dilemma they were trying to set up for us, but it just wasn't as crisp and sharp. It wasn't like Deep Space Nine. We're like, okay, war is hell, and you're gonna have to do some unethical things to survive the war. This was like, being lost in the Delta Quadrant is hell, and you have to do some unethical things to survive but it just didn't land. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't.
Yeah. See, I always felt that whole, we're just because we're in the Delta Quadrant, we're on our own. We're still Starfleet officers, and we're gonna do the right thing. And
Starfleet way, yeah.
I think you might try that for a while, but I think reality eventually the human survival instinct would kick in, and I don't think you would just sit there and go, "We're going to let these people pummel us so that they don't," it's just it's not gonna, it just doesn't. So I
was just saying that Doctor fighting himself was always a great plot point. Yeah, because Robert Picardo did amazing. Another episode I'm going to mention, Voyager had some real clunkers, absolute clunkers for the holodeck. For the Holo Suite or whatever they had. But one that worked was Bride of Chaotica. That worked. That was kind of fun.
That was kind of a fun episode. It was kind of that night. It had that 1930s serial.
The Bride of Frankenstein thing. It's like black and white. The Bride of Frankenstein thing going on.
/ Flash Gordon kind of a
parody. It was that.
And it was cute. It was kind of fun. Not really my favorite episode, but it wasn't that bad. One of the other ones I really did like and I thought was entertaining was Blink of an Eye. Not to be
I had
confused
that on
with
my
Blink
list
of an
too.
Eye.
Because that starred
Blink of an
Daniel
Eye is
Day-Lewis. That
basically
was
there's a
quite good.
planet that they're orbiting, and the
It's
planet itself is
Oh, it's
moving through time much
Tachyon.
faster than than time outside of this planet. So the people, when the ship shows up, people are like in a primitive culture, and they
Yeah.
see the ship. They can see it like in the sky, and of course they've only been there a few hours, but immediately like they've built religion around it. And,
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this trope before where
Yeah.
society, because the time moving so quickly, but I don't know. I like this one. I particularly like the fact that they eventually shoot up, a spacecraft to try to meet the gods. And of course, now these two astronauts are on Voyager, and they realize that, yeah, like 100 years have gone by, and everybody's dead, but they go back anyway. And then ultimately I guess they evolve past them, don't they?
No, they end up sending ships up to tow them out because Voyager was stuck.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, yeah, but they were eventually, I
freedom.
think, like their technology actually surpassed.
Yeah, there's technology kind of surpasses
Past that, yeah. So it was
which you would
a
think they'd
pretty good
help them get home,
episode.
yeah, it's great episode. It's Daniel Day Kim who guest stars in that one. Quite good. All right, so that kind of concludes all our major stuff. So for Disco, I just wrote seasons.
We didn't even do Enterprise. You got to give Enterprise.
Oh, Enterprise! Oh my God, did I not do Enterprise?
We did not do Enterprise. It's like my favorite.
Okay, Enterprise.
US. Hello.
I forgot some Enterprise.
No, Enterprise. I will admit, Enterprise. I would say the great episodes in Enterprise. It's hard to say. Like when you're talking about some of the ones we've already talked about. Like Beyond the Far of the Star and stuff like that. I don't think Enterprise has an episode that it comes close to that one. I think some of their best ones were in season 4. The Mirror Darkly, the 2-parter, which is brilliant. Again, I love it because it's a mirror universe episode, but it doesn't involve the Prime universe at all, other than we find out what happened to the Defiant from TOS, which I thought was the coolest part of it.
Which was the only part we cared about.
Which I love that part. That then, of course, we got to see some more TOS stuff. That was a great episode.
Yeah, it was a good mirror episode. Anything with Jeffrey Combs.
Well, he's like pretty much anything with Shran was a good. Yeah, I mean,
was a good episode.
I know a lot of people were angry that the Vulcans had like this bad streak to them, but they do explain it that's how. There's a whole episode with Sirax Katra gets into Archer, and then of course transfers it to T'Pau. Remember T'Pau from again. So I liked Enterprise because they were making connections where they could to the original series. You know what I'm saying? They could try to make these connections.
They did. They really did. But then I also like little episodes like Carbon Creek. Like that.
Yeah, that was kind of a little throwbacky thing. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people
didn't done to death, but it was okay.
Yeah, it was like kind of like almost that the Vulcans were on, of course, Earth long before First Contact, which is plausible, I suppose. Terra Prime is another good episode that was right near the very end of the series. That one is, again, it shows the early age. Remember, now Enterprise takes place before the Federation was formed. There was no even a coalition at that point. So, and they just had this big thing with the Xindi was going to blow up the planet. So, of course, it shows again that humans were still very fragile and in the sense of they could be very xenophobic.
Yes, and go ahead. Go ahead, because it just made me realize something else that they did with Jonathan Archer that I want to talk about.
Well, go ahead. I mean, that's all I was going to say. That again, it shows another human side of society. That it was early. That we always see TNG and even in the original series that the Federation, everybody's happy, everybody gets along. We don't need money anymore. Yeah. But we're starting. We're just getting to that point in Enterprise, and we're seeing that the world isn't that great yet.
Yes, they were not afraid to be kind of morally ambiguous. There was an episode, and I can't. If you guys know the name of it, I don't remember the name off the top of my head. Where Archer straight up steals some other aliens' engines.
That was
Straight
during
up
that was during
steals
that was during season 3 during the Xindi War. I don't know the name of the episode.
Yeah, it was in the Xindi
But
War,
yeah, because again, it was kind of that Cisco thing where he's like, he's got to get this, he's got to go save the Earth from the Xindi. His ship is completely disabled, so it's like, look, I got to take your shit. And we never did find out if they went back after they were all done and like caught up to the ship and
They
gave
don't.
them their
They
shit
left
back.
them. He left them.
Well, I know, but they
stranded.
said like, we'll come back, you know, as soon as
They
we
said
can,
we'll
we'll
come
come.
back.
I think if I remember the episode, he said, you know, I'm really sorry we have to do this. We'll come back, and if we can, you know, come back and help you or whatever.
I don't remember that part. All I remember is him
Yeah.
straight up
Archer,
like
well,
gangster
Archer
stealing
again, he's made,
engines, and they're like,
he's under, yeah, and again, they trying to show that in that season 3, he's under a tremendous amount of pressure. Remember, this was a guy who his father was inventing the Warp 5 engine, and he was the captain. It was supposed to be an exploration ship. He wasn't supposed to be a war captain, and he gets thrown into this, so he's under a lot of pressure. Even in the Xindi part, there's a couple times where he literally tortures a guy almost to death to get information from him. So it shows a kind of a realistic, or at least a human side to somebody, that these guys aren't perfect. Again, there was no Federation, there was no Prime Directive. So we see a lot of this kind of mucking about.
That's true.
That
There was no Prime Directive.
And T'Pol, because Vulcan does kind of have this, at this time, has this non-interference policy, is kind of saying, you know, we found it's better to just not get involved, and just because you end up just making things worse.
Yeah.
And of course, he didn't understand that until he made things worse, and then
of course,
so
because that's humans for you,
right?
But yeah, there are some good standout episodes of Enterprise. There's a couple clunkers, but all in all, you know, I don't like their whole Xindi arc. I don't think any of their stuff should be dismissed, and I'm glad it's part of canon. Like, I'm glad it's the link between where we are now, I guess, and Kirk. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad it's that.
The other great thing I think that Enterprise did, and I know this was what their whole goal was, especially if you talk to Yokudas and Drexler and
Doug,
I know they were just doing. They'll tell you what the whole plan was. It was eventually their whole thing was the whole seasons were supposed to drive towards TOS, to get us to where, not necessarily exactly like the next thing was TOS, but to show you how they got to TOS. So we would have seen the birth of the Federation. We did see a lot of things like early transporter technology, but the other things that they did was I lost my train of thought.
They were going to change this. They were
going to refit the ship.
The ship.
They were going to refit the ship, but I know what I was going to say. But we saw a kind of an explanation of what the eugenics wars was. So they touched on that again with augments, they called them, but it was basically
they did kind of touch on that.
They touched on that, and they also touched on why Klingons look different. They actually explained it.
They did touch on
why
that.
Klingons in TOS look different than Klingons in anywhere else.
They really tried, and they just got a bad deal. And I feel like there's more to be mined out of that time era of the Star Trek universe. Like, I feel like there's more to look at, more to do in there. Maybe go back, revisit
there
it.
Is, and there's a lot of good novels that basically is a whole series of the birth of the Federation that kind of go through different things that happened in the Romulan War. Again, they're starting to touch on the Romulan War. That was, again, referenced in Balance of Terror. And there was even, in the books that I've read, there was that Captain Styles. Remember, there was the Captain Styles in the space service that died in the Romulan War. And so they actually had that in there, that scene or that part of the war where the captain of one of the lesser Starfleet ships dies from a Romulan attack. So, anyway, I like the series. I think it gets a bad rap. I agree. Yes, we know that the season finale sucked. I think it was not intended to be a season finale. It just ended up that way.
Yeah.
Or series finale. It was meant to be just a regular episode.
Bill says he thinks Enterprise may have suffered because it followed Voyager. That is
well, I think it was at the end of the golden age of Star Trek. I think people were getting a little burned out on Star Trek. But I think what really put the nails in the coffin was Munoz didn't like Star Trek at all, the president of CBS at the time. And they put it on that stupid Paramount network. It was
UPN.
It was the first Star Trek, aside from TOS, that wasn't originally put right into syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what killed it.
You
And
got a
I
bad rap
told you
on
guys,
them.
I used to have to tape it off a
Rap.
C-band dish because DirecTV didn't carry the Paramount network.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on. We are got
moving
4
on
minutes left to go through a whole bunch.
I'm gonna say Disco. I pretty much just like Lorac and Pike.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
I can't even name. I could maybe name Magic to make a Sanus man go mad, but I can't even name episodes. I don't even know episode names.
No, ones with mud in it.
Oh, the one with mud. Okay, yeah, that's Magic to make the Sanus man go mad. But there were 2 mud episodes.
Yeah, there's 2 mud episodes. Just
Picard, I think we both agree. Season 3, just season 3.
Yes, Picard, season 3, episode 10.
Season 3, episode 10,
and we're done.
We're done. And then I wrote all of Lower Decks because you know what? Strange New Worlds. There's one episode of Strange New Worlds that I can point to and go, that's a really good episode. Those old scientists, which is of course the Lower Decks crossover.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you know, it's funny because I had such high hopes for Strange New Worlds. I thought the first couple episodes of season 1 were actually pretty good, and I thought, oh, they're going on the. It seems like they might be going in the right direction. And then they went in this weird ass direction.
And then they retconned the Gorn, and it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, the Gorn thing really is where I got. But the first couple episodes I thought were decent.
They really started playing.
It's not that I hate it.
Like, they started doing some whack.
Yeah, it's not that I hate it. I'm just not what I really was hoping to see. Well, Lower Decks, I agree. Just seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, all great.
All Lower Decks.
It's not a bad episode in Lower Decks.
Never a bad episode.
So
yeah, those old scientists, all Lower Decks, Picard season 3, and then just Lorac and Pike on Disco, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Am I missing? Oh, we didn't cover. I know a lot of you guys are fans of Prodigy. We didn't cover Prodigy.
We did not cover Prodigy.
I've only seen parts. I don't even think I've seen all of season 1, and I don't know. We just did. It's a kid show. I know people hate when I say
TOS Romulan remake episode. Oh, on Strange New Worlds where they did that other episode. Yeah, Balance of Terror.
Well, they did the Balance of Terror, but yeah.
Right. You guys are right. That maybe could be considered a good episode.
That was a great episode, really. And it was the best episode probably of season 1 by far. It might have probably been the best episode of
season 1.
I'd say it was the end of season 1.
Of Strange New Worlds, yeah.
Strange New Worlds, I would say is probably the best episode of both seasons. That was a really good. The only thing I didn't like about the episode was at the very end, this implication that there was a massive Romulan fleet all cloaked on the other side of the border waiting to invade, and whether whatever happened, if it wasn't Kirk there to defeat the one ship, they all would have invaded. And I thought that was a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it was just the one ship probing. And of course, if it didn't come back, they're like, well, it didn't come back, so we probably shouldn't go and attack them.
Yeah, good call, Sarge. That Balance of Terror, not remake. It was like looking at it from a different point of view.
It was if Kirk, what it was is it was trying to prove to Pike, because remember, Pike was trying to change history so that he didn't end up in the accident.
Oh yeah,
and that means that he was still Captain of the Enterprise when that Balance of Terror episode would have taken place, timeline wise, and he went from more of a diplomatic approach to the Romulans instead of Kirk's more "we're going to blow you out of the sky," and they were showing that see how you screwed up history, and of course the implication was the Federation got invaded and was overtaken by the Romulans, and it was only so they're saying that this is why you don't want to change. Basically showed him that you need to not be
do its
thing. So, and that's when he came, because remember the whole first season he was constantly worried about that.
What's going to happen?
He kept looking up the people that he saved and all that sort of things, or that did die, and basically, he came to the conclusion that I have to. This is my destiny, and I can't change it, or should not change
it. Which just kind of reminds me that, and I mentioned this last week's episode. I'll just mention it again today. My 2 favorite moments, and these just moments in Star Trek. Favorite moments in Star Trek are Kirk telling Edith Keeler that there's 3 words, maybe more important than "I love you" in there. Let me help. And shockingly, my other favorite moment in all of Star Trek, you're not even going to believe it, but it actually comes from Disco. Or was it Stranger Worlds by then? It might have been Stranger Worlds by then.
Were they saying
no. where Pike knows his future. He knows he's going to be in that chair, and he's seen a horrible future for himself. He takes a deep breath and he steadies himself and he says, service, sacrifice, compassion, love. Those are my two favorite moments in all of Star Trek, because they both say, serve, we are here to help each other. And that's all I'm going to say tonight. Rizzo, you got anything to wrap up with, or shall I tell you what Phil and Roy are doing?
I don't think we need to wrap up. I think we've covered it. I don't know what we're doing next week, as usual.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing next week.
I don't know. We haven't thought about it. What do you guys want to do? Do you guys like these episodes where we just babble on about?
Because we'll do more.
We could do some more modern things. I was talking to Mary Beth before. I did the 3-body problem. I just watched that.
Yeah, we are both caught up on 3-body problem, so we could do
that's
that.
Interesting. That's a new one on it. That's a new show on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, there would be spoilers. I don't know if we have an hour on that show or not, but there's a lot of good stuff coming out lately. Like I said, and if you haven't watched it, there's another one. There was another one I think it was Netflix that. Oh, it was the other one called Bodies on Netflix, which was interesting. There was a time travel one where the same body shows up at 3 different points in time during like the 1800s, the 40s, the 90s or something like that, and then like way into the 2000s, like the same body shows up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting. It's called Bodies. Interesting. It was pretty good. Journey to Babel on Sci-Fi.
Journey to Babel, because we're babbling.
Babel.
Chris says I like babbling.
We babble a lot.
We do babble a lot.
So anyway, if you have ideas for shows, please give us ideas, because we want to do what you guys want us to do, not necessarily what we want to do all the time.
All right. So, while we're thinking about next week's show, Roy is going to tackle on Friday. He's going to tackle Excalibur. Do you guys remember that movie from I guess 80s? Phil is off. Yeah. Yeah. It had a great cast. Like it was actually kind of an interesting movie. Phil's off. He has the Bill McNulty Politics Hour tomorrow at noon, and then he'll do Friday night Freeform, spinning the tunes for us. And Fez Talks finally has some new episodes out. He's going to talk about the Beatles and Star Trek. So check those out wherever you listen to podcasts.
So, all right. Well, on that note, we will see you next week with something. I don't know. Watch this space, as they say, for whatever we come up with. If you have ideas, either you can even message us or just post it on our wall or wherever. You guys know how to get a hold of us.
I've done this entire show like this.
Somebody wants it. I know something. Ripley's been behind me, and she's usually like trying to get up here. So she's being calm.
So you see me glancing around. That's what I'm glancing at.
Yeah, the dogs are always nearby. So. All right. On that note, I am going to go grab my plasma rifle and go watch Fallout. All
right. Enjoy.
Till next time, we'll see you guys later. Live long and prosper. And as always, may the force be with you always.